video is brought to you by Letsynthesize Academy, the #1 place for practice-oriented courses for serious music producers.
Hey, Dan Larson here, welcome to the newest Synthesize Sunday episode, and today I want to show you a very cool machine gun bass that I made in Vital that sounds something like this. If you dig this, you will love my start to finish Tearout masterclass on Letsynthesize Academy. Click here, and if you want to download this whole project, check my Patreon. But wait, there is more after the intro. Okay, so these are the guns only. And before we start analyzing the guns, let me tell you that I'm starting a new game. So I built up a full Tearout Dubstep track that you heard in the intro at Letsynthesize Academy. If you want to win that or any other of my courses, drop a comment and a like below. And next week I'm going to announce the winner in Letsynthesize production group at Facebook. You can find all the links in the description below. So if you want to have these very cool guns, Tearout Dubstep, or you can use any other styles, you need two things: a very heavily distorted sub with a top frequency or a top noise or whatever on top of that and crunched very heavily together, and an FM thing on top of that. So let me show it to you. So this is the distorted thing on itself. So as you can hear, it's very distorted, but without a top frequency, it's just a very silly sound. And the top noise on itself, it's very similar that the FM thing on top of this, but without the heavy distortion. And I called it as a character layer. So as you can hear, it's very percussion sounding kind of thing, very heavy metallic, but all together they sound so cool. So as you can hear, the elements of this sound are not very complicated. So you need a sub with a top kind of noise on top of that and crunch together very heavily, and an FM thing. And all of these are made in Vital except the sub, because I used Operator for that, but it really can be made in any synth, so it's not a big deal. As you can see, it's just a sine wave with this envelope and a pitch bend on top of that, so you just have a kick basically. Let me show it to you. I mean, a punch on the sub. Now, if you want to check the group, the distorted group, because this is where basically the crunch happens, where I crunch the sub and the top frequencies all together. What I did is I boosted this frequency because it has a very nice middle frequency that I can boost here to cut through the mix, and it plays really well with the character layer. Let me show you to what happens if I disable this boost. So as you can hear, there is a lot more things going on in the middle frequencies that really helps the guns to cut through the mix. So it's basically just a rumble. But if I boost the mids very heavily at around 500 Hz, it has its weird but very cool sound that will help the guns a lot. I added lots of gain, where the saturator, the analog clip mode, will crunch the sound. So basically this is where the crunch happens. Now the top that plays along with the sub sounds like this, as I showed you before. Without all these effects. This is how it sounds. There is this phase distortion, phase dispersion kind of thing. It doesn't add too much to it. So what this rack does is basically having lots of EQ3s. And the EQ3s use cuts to separate different bands in the spectrum. And at the cut points, there are some phase shifting effect. And if you apply lots of these EQs, this phase shifting effects boost a lot and creating this very weird but also very nice little sound that you can find in the Kilohertz Guide dispersion plugin. and it is so cool. But you can do that in Ableton with lots of EQ3s. It's just cool. It's very cool. It adds a nice little block transient to the sound. Some EQ, an OTT, another EQ, a saturator, another EQ, because after the saturator you still need to clean up your sound, flanger, and the rec, where there is basically just the reverb and a utility to pull back the volume at the end of the thing. So basically the post-process after Vital is some distortion, very heavy EQing, and the reverb with an OTT, of course. But the thing in Vital is very simple. It's just basically one wavetable. It's a factory wavetable called Drink the Juice. And it's basically very, very simple. I have one envelope and an LFO that plays a bunch of things here, like a synchronize, the wavetable position mode, and some filtering, the comb filter and the low pass filter. Let me show it to you without them. E with the comb. And it's filter 2 basically cleans up the sound, distortion, and the filter that boosts very heavily in the middle frequencies and cuts the lows, of course. This is important to add some nice middle frequency boost to it that will cut through the mix a lot better. So as you can see, the whole thing is very, very simple. One wavetable with some filtering and with some warping mode, there's some distortion and a very heavy boost in the middles. And if you crunch this together with the sub, let's see the character layer. So the post-process of the character layer is not very complicated. Again, let me show it to you without them. So now the sound is the same, but lots tinier with lots of transient. So this is why I decided to add a little distortion to it. That will bring up the sustained part. So not only the transient is just what you hear, but a lot more basic because of the distortion. Now I added a frequency shifter too. And this created that very nice, evenly kind of frequency to it. What I did basically is I just created the Vital preset, and I started to experiment with the frequency shifter to find the best sound that I liked, all together with the pitch tool. So basically I tuned the pitch and then the frequency shifter until I found a satisfying sound. Then an EQ8, because the frequency shifter always generates lots of unwanted frequencies. And as you can hear, I boosted very heavily again on the middle frequencies at around 500 Hz. Another EQ8 to boost the highs. And because of lots of compression and distortion, I lost the very nice transient. I added a glue compressor with crazy high attack time and with lots of compression basically. That adds the transient back. A saturator at the end with more volume, because as you can see the makeup is on the max. So this is the post-process. Let's see Vital. Again, this thing here is not very complicated. You need to keep in mind two things. You need lots of FM, and especially on the beginning of the sound or on the transient, and as it goes forward in time, you need to subtract the FM. So you need the more FM in the beginning of the sound to add very harsh and very loud transient, and then you need to pull back the FM to have a little lighter and a little more filtered sound at the end or at the tail of the sound. So let me show it to you. This is the pure sound. So I added some random stuff here. And after that I used a simple sine on 38 semitones higher, and I used FM from oscillator 2. But this was not enough. I wanted to add even more. So I used a saw wave, sorry, in synchronization mode. So basically this is a very high frequency saw wave. And as you can see, it is on 48, sorry. I'm FMing oscillator 2 with that. So this creates basically the transients very, very nicely. So you can hear that the whole sound is a lot more clickier with oscillator 3. Now I had to use a filter because, as I told you before, I wanted to filter the tail of the sound. Then I added the reverb. and an EQ to add even more middle frequencies. And everything is controlled by these envelopes and this LD4. So every envelope is different on the FM modulation. And this is again important because you want to have lots of movement with FMing the sound. So basically this is it. All together they sound like this. And in the group, in the final group, I added an EQ because there was already too much in the middle frequencies. So I had to tame all together, all of them. This is a transient shaper, I love it. And a saturator, and this is just the sidechain on them. And one more time, I made a very nice Tearout track. If you want to win, comment and like this video. And if you want to download this whole project, go to my Patreon with tons of other very cool stuff. I hope you enjoyed this one today. I was Lars and see you guys next time. Peace.